Great. So why don't we get started? This is Rahul here. I'm one of the hosts for this discussion, part of Stellaris. Let me start by introducing other folks on the panel. We have Navjot, who's part of the investment team at Fireside, also the go-to person for all D2C related activities, I think, at Fireside. And my colleague Naman, also part of Stellaris itself. We also have Samir, who's founder of Crownit. And maybe Samir later on, maybe you can give it 1 minute intro on what Crownit does. And Sneha, who's part of the brand strategy team. She heads the brand strategy team at Vadham Teas, and I don't think people require introduction to Vadham. And prior to that, Sneha was also part of Lenskart. So today we have Sneha, who can at least share her experiences from one very large scaled up company, and then also Vadham, which has been doing quite well. Just to lay out the structure for the discussion, there are few interesting, exciting questions that Navjot, Naman, and I had that we'll shoot towards Samir and Sneha, and we'll try to limit it to 30 minutes. And then post that, we'll also have audience and have them ask questions. In the first 30 minutes also, feel free to type down your question. We'll try to ask them as we are chatting with Samir and Sneha. But we'll also have this 30 minutes, the second 30 minutes reserved for only audience asking questions. Maybe to get started, Samir, this notion of primary research, it's a topic which is interesting. Sometimes I've also founders in consumer brands not being aware of why should they do it. Typically, it is considered a realm of large CPG company like P&G and Unilever. So maybe with the one-line intro on Crownit, it would be good to hear from you on what all kind of primary research startups can think of, and how does it help these businesses as they are growing and have other challenges also to tackle.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me over. First about Crownit. Crownit is a consumer insights and market research platform. We help brands across India right now, till now, to do measurements across marketing, across brand performance, product performance, and shopper insights. We do it using our technology platform, Eagle Insights, with access to 3.5 million consumers in India in the top 50 cities. We work with 130 enterprises, and 14 of them are D2C brands, and 4 venture capitalists and 2 PE firms as well. So to answer your question, absolutely. So the way I look at consumer insights and market research, or primary research, that's what and many people call it, is it actually opens sources of hypothesis building. So many times when we go in as an entrepreneur, you actually have a hypothesis. As an investor, you have a hypothesis. Now, what research does is actually opens up new avenues for hypothesis building as the first layer. Second layer, it makes your company more data-driven, which is making decisions using pure data. Now, you'll say, okay, I already have data. I already have a lot of data on my customers. That's what I call L1 data. Just my customer, I know my customer. Now, what about the L2, L3, and L4? So L2 is your customers who know about you, but they're actually buying from your competitor. Okay, L3 are your category customers, but they're not like playing around with these type of brands yet. Okay, and then L4 are your TG, but they are not onboarded yet with the category. So L2, L3, and L4 have their inputs for your growth strategy, your GTM, and making sure that you are aware of how you're going to win the market. And we help with the 4 type of measurements with all L1, L2, L3, L4 across India for brands.
Got it. And Samir, for, while I've seen this being used by you, but as I was asking, like most of us either don't use it or have this memory of, Nielsen's and IMRB running large surveys and all. As in, has the world changed around primary research? Because startups also want, speedy decision making, and they can't wait for like 2 months and 3 months and inability to get online consumers. So if you can also go deeper into the next level detail.
Absolutely. If you go 10 years back or 20 years back, if you said, I want to launch a new brand, I want to launch a new campaign, we're talking about months and weeks, even years to launch, year or two to launch a new product, new packaging and everything. The world we live in the last 5 years, and that's the whole, birth of D2C, if you really look at it, the production life cycles and iteration life cycles have crunched. I can make videos, content overnight, which used to be a big thing 5 to 10 years ago. So my go-to-market is fast, my production is fast, my feedback is fast. Hence, my measurement also needs to be fast. You can't actually say, in the 3 months, I'll actually launch the product, but my insights are going to take 2 months to come in. Hence, the consumer we're going after in what I call mobile leapfrog geographies, India being one of them, which is the first computing device in the home was a smartphone. These are 24/7 consumers. They're available all the time. So why do field work? Why do things which are slow in nature to measure when I can get to these consumers in a matter of hours or maybe 2, 3, 4 days, collect the data, and we collect 4 types of data. One is videos, chats, photographs, bill photographs, product photographs, and then surveys. All of this collected together to give consumer insights to brand. Very fast, matter of days, you have the insights, you can take action on them.
Got it. And Sneha, turning over to you, I'm sure you have been a consumer of primary research, both at Lenskart and now at Badham. Similar questions to you, as in where have you found it useful? How is it different than the old world we used to live in? If you can shed light with some real life example, that would be very useful.
Great. First of all, thank you for the customary thanks, I think, for inviting me. And there are a couple of things that Sameer has already covered. I think the world really has changed from, say, 10 years back and how one would perceive research. It was perceived to be this lengthy process. You're going to take a month or so to have your questionnaire in place, and then you've got your recruitment, and then by the time that you have any viable any inputs or insights come into you, it's a good 3 months, but that has definitely changed. So as technology has enabled everything else, whether it is GTM, whether it is how soon you iterate on the product, I think a lot of brands still don't know of the options that are available to them now. Now, besides that, in terms of primary research, it's a large umbrella. There's lots within it, and I would say personally within Badham, there are a couple of things and formats that we use, and for any D2C brand, especially because any D2C brand could also possibly be using these formats. So here at Badham, there are 4 things that we do regularly, and they all fall under the larger category or umbrella of primary research. So the first thing would be guiding product testing. The second usage or use case, as you call it, for primary research is going to be mapping customer satisfaction. So NPS, that's also a part of primary research. The third is going to be stuff like measuring campaign effectiveness. That if you're on any platform, any digital platform, whether you're on a YouTube or a Facebook, you could run BLS studies. I mean, I'm just talking about something very specific. Then, of course, there's the fourth, which is the traditionally or modern ways of running your brand equity studies. So map your funnel awareness, consideration, etc., etc. So these are 4 things. I think these all come under primary research, and it doesn't have to be like a lengthy process. And at Badham, we are utilizing all 4 at various points, and that's, I think, that in my opinion, would be something that other brands should also be doing. Especially if you're a B2C brand, you need to have, you need to be tapping into the pulse of the customer. If you don't know what your customer is wanting, saying, thinking, feeling, then you're really not different from any traditional brand. So yeah. And specifically, if you were to ask me, we've really gained immensely from research. So if I were to talk to you about simply NPS, actually, because this is the most recent thing in my mind. So we recently started the entire process of NPS, and how we deploy it here is to do it. We track this at 2 levels. So we first track it right at the time, right after checkout. The question pops up, and the customer answers the customer. How likely are you to recommend this product? And then depending on how they rate us, if the person is a detractor or a promoter, then there are further questions to deep dive. So we measure it at that point, and then we measure it after 15 days. So that gives enough time for the consumer to have received the product and to have experienced the product. So with us, what we ended up finding was that our scores right after the sale and scores after 15 days were very different. Our scores after 15 days were very good, and our scores right after the sale were bad. So then this was something that we had to work with. We figured out what was it that was causing this. What was it that was essentially causing it, and we realized that there was some glitch on our add to cart, basically our checkout page. And thankfully, we could get to it. We fixed it, and the next set of numbers, they are better. Of course, we are also fairly recent in deploying this. So yeah, it's right there. I mean, it's right there for any brand to see that these are things that you can actually incorporate and to use it. I mean, we for product testing, I can go into details now or later. I mean, we're fans of research when it comes to product testing.
Interesting. Sneha, something that you said about at some point NPS is also primary research, and so many tools that are available. So I just wanted to ask you on, and you've seen the growth at Vahdam, it's different at different phases, customer data, etc. So in terms of, in your experience at, here and even at other places, can you share different, how has customer research been different at different scale and stage of the company? Do the questions change? Do the objectives change? Does the process change? So how has that been different?
Okay. So definitely, I think the tools that you will employ, what you're going to be seeking out of the research is bound to differ. What periodicity that you follow, all of those things will differ. So I'd say at Vahdam, like I mentioned, there are certain things that we do. So from NPS to product testing to equity tracking. BLS is something that it's not something that we do regularly, because in terms of our market spends on brand only advertising or non-PPC advertising are very low. So then to measure the lift wouldn't be ideal for us. But yes, depending on what campaign it is, we'd probably deploy that. But for let's say a larger business that's very active, larger business and within the startup community and within the D2C community, which is very actively spending money on platforms, digital platforms such as a YouTube or a Facebook or OTT platforms, definitely it makes sense to be doing things like a BLS. It's very and tracking. Okay, has the ad really moved any needles for me? Because advertising, the thing with advertising is essentially that you're not going to see an immediate bump in sales. Advertising has the 2 or 3 month period, and it's not like PPC, where you're retargeting to somebody and then you immediately track your ROAS. So what ends up happening is that often you've got, within your marketing plans, you've got the brand and you've got performance, and this actually is a concern with most founders, with most marketing teams, that okay, performance, we understand what's happening, we know if things are good, things are bad. We don't know what's happening on the brand marketing end, and it's almost it almost serves as a vanity sort of activity that every 5 people or the founder likes the ad, or 6 more people like the ad, the management likes the ad, it's good, you're sorted. But that's not the reality. There are things to measure and see if there is really to really see if there is any impact that your communication strategy has made on ground. So I would say that if you have a reasonable marketing budget, definitely invest in things like measuring campaign efficiency, and you can do it in many ways. You can either do it directly with the platforms and do something like a BLS, or you could build it in your brand equity study. So I think you can count it. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, someone's asking what is BLS. So just for our audience, if you could also just tell us what BLS means.
Okay, so BLS is a short form or acronym for brand lift study. So essentially what it will measure, or how a BLS would happen, is that say you have, you decide to advertise on YouTube, and you have certain targeting parameters. So say you're targeting women from the ages of 25 to 34 residing in say top 8 metros, etc., right? So what happens within the BLS is that whatever platform you go to, they will have a control set and a test set. So they're going to show your ad to the test set, and they're going to not show the ad to the control set, and then they're going to ask some set of questions that you decide with the platform to understand how the customer or whoever, the target audience, whether test or control, responds to your brand. So has the ad really built a lift? That's why it's called lift. So, have you changed perception towards your brand because somebody has seen the brand? So if, somebody sees your brand and message and there is no lift, then there's a problem somewhere, right? So it's either the message that's not communicating what you need to communicate. So that's essentially a BLS study.
Got it. So BLS can be done 2 ways. One is the way she just described, which is a control group and an exposed group. The other way to do is it's called a pre and post, which is before your campaign goes live, because you could actually go in multimedia. You could go my Facebook page, my YouTube page, my OH page, English. I'm doing YouTube. I'm doing Facebook. I'm going to do some influencer marketing. I'm going to do this 1 month of big campaign. So you know what? Before that, we do a pre-study, and then there's a brand lift study, which is called a post, which is done and measured with different sets of people or same sets of people, depending on how we design the study. And that's why, design of the study is super important.
Samir, 70% of our audience on this one would be a Series A funded or maybe even an early stage startup. If you think from their point of view, what would you recommend? What kind of studies have worked, not worked, and budgets? That's one thing that always comes to mind. So it would be great if you can share some experiences there.
Absolutely. I would always say one thing. Nothing can take away the hunch and the gut of the entrepreneur. Okay. I would always stand by that. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I always stand by that. Never question that. But definitely, as I said earlier, it opens new horizons for hypothesis building. It creates a culture of data-driven decision-making. And thirdly, it gives you access to L2, L3, and L4s. Now, what we've seen we look at 3 broad spectrums, or 3 basically categories of enterprises. One is pre-launch, or just very early stage companies, and then there's some people who are in growth stage, and then there is a big organizations. Generally, when you're in pre-launch, launch, early time, you're just almost there as PMF of just done product market fit. You're looking at more of, okay, I want to enter into this geography. What is the need gap there? What is my true definition of the target group, the TG definition? What should be my go-to-market strategy in this type of TG versus this type of TG? You're validating your assumptions there. You have less emphasis on geography, and you have more emphasis on making sure your PMF is happening and you're getting to those numbers. And research is generally very nebulous and agile, and we're helping primarily the founder and the founding team arrive at hypothesis and validating those hypotheses. Okay. Now, the moment you go slightly higher, going into slightly growth stage, that's where a lot of these NPSs, CSATs, not that it won't help early on. Product feedback is super important, end-to-end product feedback and NPS. But this is where you actually start looking at, okay, my net promoter score, what's my brand measure? Because I, as an organization or a brand, have put myself in a slot here. Let's say that slot is, one day I want to be a Maruti. Let's say that. Now, where am I vis-a-vis all the attributes of Maruti when it comes to brand measure? So that brand measure becomes an important thing, and you do it at a frequency, a brand measure. My marketing performance, as Sneha said, brand lift study. How is my marketing campaign performing? So thoda और double click करेंगे तो बहुत interesting चीज आती है, which is what is the believability of my message? What is the enjoyability of my message? Is it going to convert into an intent to purchase? That's where the creatives, the communication is, when I say natural on the top and no chemicals on the bottom, versus when I do it the other way around, is the brand lift all of a sudden 2 degree, 3 degree up notch? Those things just completely take away your transaction conversion ratios. And those small things give aha moments. I know the way Sneha said you got the aha moment. Those give you the aha moments, and it's like, whoa, we didn't ever think out of that. You get business intelligence and competition, L2, L3s, L4s. That's another thing when you're in growth stage you're looking for. I'm not talking about the early launch. I'm not, really looking at this other competition, where how they are. There is more emphasis on geography. Okay. Packaging, colors, celebrity, the celebrity endorsements. You're looking at that type of direction. You might be looking at a brand equity for a celebrity. You're looking at which celebrity to go after, and then communication testing. So all of these, here is now the research has to be aggressive and again, still agile. And then you get to the 100 crore number. And I saw that question. It's like 100 crore number. And he said, now what? Now, the interesting thing is, really, 100 crore number, which happens in 3 to 4 years now, used to take 10 to 15 years earlier. So that's where the new world we live in. Here is when you're looking at market shares. Here is where you're becoming, because the decisions are not being made by the entrepreneurs or the founding team. The decisions are well distributed within the organization. Multiple product ranges are happening. Hence, you're creating a culture or a process of measuring and comparing and then going forward with decisions. You're looking at new entrants. You're looking at, okay, who else is coming behind me to dethrone me? You're looking at more of an ROI on all your media spend. Now, your media spend is not going to be 10 lakh rupees a month. Now your media spend might be 2 crore a month. So every 2 to 3 rupee here and there on every CPC matters. So hence your media spends have to get you the ROI, hence your research spend completely starts growing. At that level, we look at a formula of around 4 to 5% of your marketing spend being spent on measurement. It could be anywhere from 3 all the way to 6% actually goes into measurement, which is insights.
Samir, a follow-up to a very good point that you raised around ROI. So, a lot of founders bootstrap their way to start a D2C brand. And in the beginning, they are very cost conscious. So how should one plan their budget and how should one measure the ROI in the early stages, especially in the pre-launch and launch stages? Like there is a question in their head always: is it worth the money? Is it worth the spend? The research which they're doing. How do you thought about that?
So I look at it two ways. One is Consumer Insights fills the voids of data which the entrepreneur does not have. Okay, that's an important thing we bring in to the table. That's our biggest contribution. And frequency of what you want to measure, the business problem you're trying to solve, all those have to be crystal clear, and you decide at the bootstrap stage, boss, I need to measure it. It is super important. The second reason I always go is that, you know what, the mistakes you can make. The mistakes you can make, you could misread your TG. You can misread a lot of things in the market as signals. And so these are the only two, at least two advice I always go with early. There's so many early stage entrepreneurs. Actually, we say, aap ye kar lo, this will be better for you. Don't go for a full-fledged reset right now because it's still very nebulous at this point. We would rather say no to that revenue or study and say, please, you do it this way rather than doing it this way.
I'd actually like to come in here because Sameer mentioned that your media budgets also increase, etc., and Naman, like you mentioned that there's smaller or early stage startups. So there's a lot that you can tailor within the measurement as well. So we started our first brand track actually happened when we were not even, we were on the way to 100 crores, but we were not even 100 crores at that time. And we weren't spending most of that money in the India market at all. So we decided that there were a lot of voices in the rooms that said that you don't need to spend that money measuring brand equity. What's the point? You're not even, you're hardly going to be putting X amount of money in media. But there are lots of things that a brand does. So there's influencer marketing, etc., etc., etc. So many, there's so many things that you do. It doesn't have to be a media campaign, but has that moved the needle? You could be changing just something as small as what you call out on your product in packaging. So since you mentioned, Sameer, the whole point of natural products, right? So what we decided, and I think that the credit goes to Bala, our founder, because he was very, very particular that, listen, we need to establish a baseline. We need to know where we stand at this moment vis-a-vis other competitors and vis-a-vis marquee brands to then figure out that whatever we do, whether it's a sampling exercise, whether it's an influencer exercise, whatever we do, is it changing anything for us? And we did our baseline, and then we decided that we don't need to do a month-on-month track. We'll do a quarterly track, and that's enough time for us to actually have done enough and to see if there's been any change. And sure enough, we didn't do much. We did one activity actually post the baseline with a Bollywood celebrity / influencer, and we did some sampling. That was also coming from the feedback that we got from the baseline that our awareness levels were low initially, but we had great awareness to people who were aware, they were considering and they were trialing our products. So that percentage was very high. So we realized the best way to do it is sampling, and then post the baseline, we ran a sampling exercise, we ran an influencer exercise, and we could see the change. We could literally see the change. And the other interesting thing was, in all of our messaging, we put the fact that it's, our products are 100% natural and have real ingredients, something so small as that. All of our messaging began to, include this. And we saw in imagery parameters where, you check for certain parameters and you ask people that, how do you rank us on, say, certain statements like, is this brand has natural ingredients, 100% organic and toxin-free, it's value for money. In here, we actually saw a 30-35% bump. So Yeah, I think it really helps guide and gives you assurance when needed, and gives you, tells you where to correct course. Um, so yeah.
So I'll just add to, I think we talked about brand tracking a bit, Sneha. So for brand tracking, some jazz there. So basically what we do is it's a brand funnel. You're going to the TG. It's not it's not all of them are customers. They're TG. And you're basically saying, what's the top tea brand which comes to your mind? Okay. And they just write it down. This is the one. Okay. Then you say, okay, now, what are the other tea brands which come to your mind? It's okay, this. And then you say, okay, you know, where did you hear about these? So, then, for example, in Vadam's case, it will be source of awareness. So all the people who said, yeah, I'm the road, I know Vadam, was top of mind. Vadam is the top of mind, or I'm one of those, I know. And then it comes down to where do you hear from them, about them? And then you say, okay, have you tried them? Why did not you try them? What are the reasons of not trying? So imagine hundreds of people, you're going through this funnel, you get to learn that the last month's activity with that influencer actually increased my source of awareness and actually made me go from Spont to Tom, because more people now are speaking about me as a free text, which means my brand imagery is getting better. And then the trigger to try was people don't know where to buy me. Okay, the distribution wasn't there or something like that. So then you all of a sudden know, you know what? So each one of them has a role to play in your business.
Interesting. Samir, there is actually a question which Samrit has asked, which is very interesting. What they're saying is that they've already built a brand. Business is 100 crore, primarily led by pricing. Now they want to, figure out what does the brand stand for, flush it out. How do you suggest they go back, or how do they now think about brand building around the business that they've already built? Can research be of any help there?
So research is a third-party measurer. Okay. Hypothesis building happens with, or plan strategy building, if you want to say, happens with, people who actually build brands or marketers. Okay. What we do is we say we help you validate your hypothesis or build hypothesis. Okay. Measurement has to be completely unbiased. It's like, humne measure karke dena hai aapko. Because the moment we start getting into that, it sort of completely biases us. What we do is we help you measure your hypothesis. And this, at a 100 crore brand, now you're thinking of branding, rebranding, building a brand persona or a brand, image. You definitely can use us for what one is called concept testing, communication testing, package testing, colors, celebrities, all of that with your specific TG, we or any research organization can help you validate and measure.
Maybe Navjot, Naman, Sneha, do you have, given that I'm assuming you guys have also seen in these problems in portfolio or other companies you meet, any thoughts?
It is, I think it's possible to measure where you stand right now. I mean, I think Samir would be better poised to express the jargon. But yes, there are studies that you can undertake to sort of get a feel of how are people perceiving your brand. So if you're a 100 crore fashion brand and you played on pricing, right? You may think that people buy me because I am cheap or I'm reasonable, but there could be other triggers and other triggers into buying into your brand or other barriers into not buying into the brand. So why is the person, let's say a fence sitter, why is the person who's aware not tried your brand? Those things can all come, those insights can all come through research. But yes, as opposed to other kinds of studies, here it's more, I suppose it's more exploratory, and you try to figure out where your current consumer and the fence sitters and other people who are aware or not aware of you, where do they stand right now? And then there are other ways of figuring out what are the tweaks you need to make in your communication strategy. Is there something that you need to address or look for? Say, for example, if your brand in imagery parameters keeps coming as value for money, but also parallelly you receive inputs, and that's it. I mean, I'm speaking from experience at in my previous employments, that we figured that we had high awareness, we played on price, but people thought that we were not great quality, and that was perception. They figured that if we are able to provide a certain product at such a low or cheap price, there must be something wrong with quality. And that actually, then once those qualitative studies happened, then we figured out, okay, we need to work on product strategy. We need to lead with product. We need to have we need to be talking to people and building vocabulary around a quality product, tech innovation, etc., which we did subsequently. And then that changed for us. So yes, you can pivot from here. You can definitely, research can help at all stages.
No, I think I misunderstood the question. Maybe what you were asking was building a brand or measuring the brand?
Actually, I think that, and maybe we can come back to this if we have time. I think the question was more around how do they now think about building a brand?
Yeah.
That's my understanding of the question. Shall we go to the audience question now?
Yeah, there is another interesting question posted by Abhinav. Like, how can you use primary research to understand your competitors better? So, can you really use primary research for competitive study and competitive understanding?
Absolutely. Sneha, do you want to talk first about
it? Okay. Yes, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to explain it better. But within the research design, there are many questions. So the questions that there'll be a matrix which compares you on certain parameters versus other brands. So when we did the brand study, and we did the brand study with Crownit, we had certain parameters of taste, parameters of availability, parameters of value for money, all of these questions. And then there's a Group Bond, there's a Taj Mahal, there's a other brands, within the smaller D2C segment closer to us. And on each of these parameters, you can see where and how you stand from an average of that particular category and for that particular data point. So it's possible to see, of course, it's possible to see and measure how you stand with the rest of the people.
So it's not about just standing, by the way, right? Okay. So if you want to do is you come to know that what is the source of awareness of Vahda, right? Now there's a competitor. Let's say ABC. You want to know, okay, what is the source of awareness of ABC? That's right there. You actually get that business. Then you want to do product test and you do comparative product test. You actually blind the two products. Everybody's seen the Coke and Pepsi comparison ads ages ago. So you blind the products and actually send it to your consumers. You do blind tests. That also gives you a very good understanding of competitive products and that. Plus communication testing, you can actually do communication understanding of how your competition is doing it. So we're recently doing something for a very large technology company, which is an NPS on all the competition.
Wow.
And it's really interesting because we get a lot of bill data. We have validated transactions on all those platforms. So we're saying, okay, yeah, I know this guy bought this. So we're doing NPS on all of them. And then they say, okay, now I want to compare with my NPS and actually improve it. So there is a lot of business intelligence you can gather also now with this.
Let me bring on board Chinmay. He has raised his hand.
And Chinmay, if you can limit it to a single line question, that will be very useful.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. Specifically in the food category, the snacking food category, would it be possible, and this is a bit of a hopeful question, would it be possible to have a consumer acquisition cost via, say, Facebook, Instagram, or Google of around 125 rupees?
Guys.
Chinmay, I think maybe this may not be the right forum. if we do get that answer, we'll let you know.
Test it out. We can do a study to test it out.
So I think, Chinmay, this is more of a performance marketing cost question, and let me try and answer that. And I think the reason also you're asking is because the AOVs in food category specifically are restricted in some cases, which is why CAC also has to be planned accordingly. So yeah, I think maybe your question is coming from there, and the answer is yes. At scale, the answer might change, but CACs can be as low as 125. That's happened, but it may not be sustainable when the company scales. But if you find a better way, and if the answer is yes for you consistently, then please let us know.
Let me know also.
I think there's another question posted by one of the attendee anonymously, that how do you remove the bias from from the survey? Because a lot of people, they are particular to their own behavior. There is a lot of bias in the way they do it, specifically in the way they answer the questions. How do you try to remove it?
So I'll answer that. So first is to actually get representative respondents. We're looking at large cities. So first, what you do is you actually sit down with the company and say, what is your TG and what are your geographies? And we say, okay, there is Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. There is Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune. Then there is Chandigarh, Ahmedabad, Surat. And then you break them into metros, small metros, non-metros, and all of that. And then you take the big, large metros, Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore, and say, and Chennai maybe, and say, okay, we're breaking them up so that they're actually in the small cities in them itself. So you want to have representative sample from each one of those things, because an SECA of South Delhi would be behaving very differently of SECA of North Delhi versus Gurgaon versus Noida or Faridabad. So you want to actually make sure you have representation from all of them. Then while you're doing data collection, you also are looking at how the people are behaving when they're actually reading through and responding. So there are technology solutions out there we ourselves built to ensure that we actually weed out everybody who's either fatigued or speedsters, straight liners. There's a lot of other ways you actually read through that data and get to the real, what we call qualified. So just to give you numbers, we do over 3 million interviews, which is called data collection, in a month. And out of them, only 10% reach the end of it. All the others are cleaned up and removed, and because of fatigue, because of data issues, because of non-representation, and you sort of, in the real world and the field work world back then, it used to be you walk into a house, you knock, and then she start babbling, and you say, okay, I'll go. You go to the next one. So you actually, that's how you filter out, and there are mechanisms to filter out all the unwanted data.
And maybe a sub question, Samir, is that as a business, do you keep on going to the same respondents on multiple times, or how do you build variety?
Variety, we call it freshness.
Okay,
freshness, variety. Freshness is important, and which basically means that you want to actually not go to the same people every few days. You want to actually go to them maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. And then freshness can be built in within categories and within brands. So you say, I'm not going to go to the same person for electronics for at least 6 months. I'm not going to go to the same person for, let's say, food to the same person for like 2 months and things like that. So we have rules which we build in to ensure that there is freshness and people are actually given what we call cool-off period before you go and interview them. And in the meantime, cool-off period mein kya karenge? So they have to be on the platform. So we have gamifications and all of that we build in to ensure that, and we collect all the other type of data, profiling data, things like that, to make sure that people are engaged on our platform.
Okay. So, Samir and Nisna, I think here we are talking about, either talking to customers directly or running a survey to understand the insights and trends. But there is in today's digital world, there's a lot of data which is already out there. People are posting reviews on Amazon, people are posting reviews on Zomato. Is there a way technology or a deep tech can be leveraged to use that unstructured data to identify trends and signals with the emotions that customers have already presented out there in the digital forums?
Sneha?
I would actually not be the right person to answer this, because we actually use platforms like Grounded to seek data. So I wouldn't be the right person actually to.
Let me take a shot at it. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of data available when it comes to UGC as well as reviews. And there are companies who are actually doing collection of that data. So there are two parts to it. One is collection of that data. How do you get access to that data? And secondly, how do you make sense out of that data? So there are definitely tools and technologies to make sense out of data, which is unstructured, and building it into a structured data, which generally is either a word cloud or things like that. Now, how do you get access to that data and use it for your business? Is definitely, there are solutions out there to do that, and there are companies who've actually built out there. It's just not about Amazon reviews. It's about Facebook, Instagram. There's so many other public forum data which are available, which are used to do it. We don't do that as a business, and there is a specific need behind that to use that. It's primarily to do actually three things. So one, which is to understand how behaviors are shifting, and primarily on the platforms where you are marketing, right? Secondly, about if shit is going to hit the fan. Sorry to use that word. So for example, kuch panga hone wala hai, okay, and you immediately get it. So people use it for a lot of emergency purposes. I remember with this one time, this used to happen 3 times with us. Once, which was, everybody knows this, it's just like, aate mein plastic hai. Okay, and it's like, okay, something has happened. We need to do something, and we did a lot of research around it within 16 to 18 hours, and we gave it to our client. But so you catch all of those signals from from these tools. And thirdly, obviously, is feedback. Something has gone wrong with your services, your specific feedback on your product. So you get all of that because people rave, rant, talk about it on social media. There are people out there, definitely use them. We do that.
So actually, I'll venture to now answer this. So if you're specifically trying to understand what the sentiment is on social media, or let's say what is the PR sentiment. So sentiment analysis is something that there are tools that exist to give you a sense of how are people speaking about your brand, specifically on social media, and you can within the tools build in competitor brands, fill out the names, and you can see how people are speaking, with respect to your competitor brand. So there are such tools are definitely available, but that's as far as my knowledge and goes, those are restricted to social media. So there are tools like Melbot, Radian6, etc., etc. I mean, if you just Google it, you should be able to find it, but specifically to PR and sentiment analysis.
Yeah, and just to add to that, product reviews and all of that through Amazon and all of that, there are definitely companies, I'm forgetting the name of a person who does it in Bangalore. They also do it. So I know there are tools out there, Rahul and Navjit.
Saurabh, you are on board. You can ask your question.
Saurabh, you're on mute.
Not.
I guess, yeah, we can probably move to the next question by the time Saurabh figures it out. I think meanwhile, I'll ask another question which is posted on the Q&A board. Maybe linked to the earlier question, but are there any hacks to, to do primary research for building insights on third-party platforms like Amazon? So I think a part of it was already answered in the earlier question, but apart from that, is there any other hack to generate customer insights for platforms like Amazon, Flipkart?
They're pretty.
Just Sabir, I'll add to Navan's question just one extra nugget. And what is your, in that context, how do you use social listening and social listening tools also?
Yeah, so I'll answer your first question, which is definitely we recommend our clients and customers to say you do use social listening. We don't have expertise in it. We don't intend to do that. But there are definitely a lot of social listening tools out there. Take subscription from them. That is a very good source of data. So, 5 years ago, I went to China. I want to tell you this story. And I was building Meituan of India. It's like, banayenge, kuch karenge. But then, I really learned one thing. And at that time, 5 years ago, the Indians don't do UGC at that time. Okay. And that was our biggest challenge, building something at that time. And if you really look at Zomato stories, moving into delivery, because it was a lot of things, just like UGC was a challenge. Now, UGC is not a challenge. So you actually have to value it and definitely do social listening. Do not ignore it at all. I would say that. We don't do that as a business, but there are definitely tools. Frawl is there and a couple of others there. I can share and we can talk about that. Going to the first question, which was hacks. Definitely Amazon and Flipkart and all the other platforms are very protective of their data and some of these things which get scraped or whatever. We are very careful of it because we are a third party, neutral party who has to measure. So we do not get into those things. I don't know. I'm not aware of if there are any hacks. So all the best to that one.
And maybe both the question to both Samir and Sneha, with some real life examples, maybe if you can cite, some common mistakes you have seen around primary research, brand may get a negative list that some of the, attendees can carry with them so that they don't make same mistakes.
Like your what not to do list.
I have mine, but I don't know, Sneha, if you want to start.
I think primarily when you set out to find something, you need to be very sure of what it is that you're wanting to arrive at. So let's not try to ask customers for the ideal solution. So when you structure your questions, customers are best equipped to answer regarding their pain points. So however you deploy the research, just it's important to understand that ask them about themselves, about their pain points. So the questions and how they are structured need to ensure that you're not trying to force fit. It can't be a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You have, I know hypothesis testing is one of it's something that people do right, and use research for. But as a rule of thumb, I think it's nice to explore and understand where is the pain point. What is that the customer wants improved in his or her life, instead of asking what is the ideal solution they're looking for. Because I think we've probably all heard of the famous quote attributed to Henry Ford. About if I were to ask them what they wanted, they would just say that they wanted a better horse or a faster horse. So whenever you're probing, I think it's important to know what is it that what's the pain point that the customers are facing currently, instead of saying that what is the price point that you're comfortable to buy this at, or what is the solution that you're looking for, what kind of beverage that you're seeking, because they will not be able to answer the questions. So how the questions are structured need to serve for that. I think that would be primarily one of the things that we at this end can do. Otherwise, we rely on partners, like Crownit and professionals, like who know how to build the questionnaire. Sometimes there are two questions within the probe which asks the same thing, but they've been designed in a way to weed out people who are, giving false answers or like Samir said, 10% out of the 3 million are actually, they actually go to the final clients. Those would essentially be the things to keep in mind when you're researching. Yeah, essentially that.
I'll give you an example of the last statement she made about how you ask question, Rahul. Very, very interesting. So we were doing something for a large NGO, multi-country NGO. It's like Mask Pe Tha. Okay, just after COVID. They said, let's ask people how disciplined are they about mask. Okay, I would say don't ask him that. Ask them the other way around, which is, what do you see others around you to be disciplined around mask? The numbers were startlingly different. It was just amazing to see the difference in that. And that's what, as she said, professional brings on the table. Now, to answer your question, I would say that I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs, and the result which is produced out of building the company is purely by the grit and the execution and the vision of the entrepreneur. So the research or primary research of what we offer or other agencies offer is primarily tools to you, and will never replace your gut and your hunch on it, right? That said, the gotchas I know of are things like blind spots. Everybody has blind spots. There are gotchas, right? Or the hunch bias. The story I have to tell you is about a celebrity test we did, where the founder had a big hunch on one celebrity, and when the TG was tested, it just went to another celebrity. And so there are so many of these on package testing, communication testing, where the hunch or the blind spots on one side, on the other side is the reality. So be a learner. Be a learner, stay foolish, stay hungry, be a learner, and let the professionals design it for you and then go and measure it.
Got it. Shall we end with the last question that one of the audience members asked, which is, if I want to compare my listing on e-commerce platform with my competition listings and get any insights, is that even feasible? I think maybe you kind of answered that, Samir, in the Amazon scraping question, but if there's a different answer, do pitch in.
So actually what we did was we came with, actually a very large company came to us with the same question. We actually built a tool for it, a few hundred people going through one specific product format and a few hundred people going through another one. We call it Eagle View. So I'm sorry, marketing kar raha hu. We actually did that, and it was hugely beneficial for this client, where they actually were able to compare both the listings side by side. There are tools out there, simulation tools, who you can actually come in and test it. And we do it for a lot of clients. There are other companies around the world who offer simulation tools. Simulation tools is the best way to measure this. Simulation can be done on Facebook, simulation can be done on Instagram, YouTube, Amazon, Hotstar, Flipkart. You can do simulation of anything and then get control group through that and know that how actually people are actually reacting to the content.
Got it. Great. So we are at the end of the hour. Would like to really thank Samir and Sneha for coming on the panel, sharing the insights, and thanks Naman, Navjot. And hopefully this was useful for the audience. We'll have this recording also posted soon on both Fireside and Stellaris website as well.
Rahul, if you may allow me, actually, even though this is a primary research conversation and we were talking about gut and what not to do, I have to say this before we sign off as probably maybe an ending note to everybody. One of the things, and this is a story from Vadam on primary research, you meant to listen to it when not. So about a year and a half back, we we started out as a tea brand, as a brand that was taking the best of Indian teas to the world. And about a year and a half back, we decided that there's much more that we could provide to the consumer. There is a space to expand the category, and we decided that we want to widen our product assortment and to provide wellness solutions to our consumers globally. So at that point, we commissioned a research. We had an agency come in to help us and guide us through the product assortment process, to help us understand what should we be launching, what should the front runner of the new positioning and the new positioning be. And our founder, Bala, the initial idea was that we should make turmeric and a range of turmeric teas the front-running product. So and this is very interesting. And once again, since we are talking about primary research and and we spoke about founders' gut. So when we got the results back, it was extremely discouraging, and we were told that turmeric is absolute no. You cannot be front running with turmeric. What you need to do is, in India, people look at turmeric as a kitchen spice. They're not interested in consuming turmeric teas. Globally, you will have to build a market for it. So the best way to go forward is to build an assortment of various superfood products. So you've got an ashwagandha, moringa, and turmeric could be a part of it, but a complete no with respect to turmeric. However, as you call it, gut or founder's grit, we decided to go ahead. Navjot knows this. We frontline with turmeric. We pivoted from teas, and we got into wellness with our range of turmeric teas, lattes, and products. And today, it's our marquee product. It is our fastest selling category, and it has helped us cut clutter. So people know us, whether it's globally or India. So yeah, I think maybe as the end to the research session, sometimes just go by your gut, I'd say.
And it's delicious. I think everyone should try it.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Great. So thanks a ton, guys. Really nice having you out here.
Thank you.
See you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you so much.